Lilo Brancato Jr. rose to fame in 1993 when he made his acting debut playing the teen version of Calogero, or C, in the Robert De Niro film A Bronx Tale. De Niro played C's father, but Sonny the mobster, played by Chaz Palminteri, would be a mentor to C and ultimately a second father figure. In the film, the mobster would constantly give C sound advice and try to deter him of walking down the path he himself had chosen. He saw a lot of promise in C and knew that path could only lead to danger. If only Lilo had someone in his own life that could have influenced him in a positive way and steered him in the right direction, things might have turned out differently for him. Lilo claims the first time he smoked marijuana was before an important scene where he and Sonny are speaking in the bar in A Bronx Tale. You can kind of see that Lilo's demeanor is sort of spacey and dazed in the scene. After A Bronx Tale, Lilo would continue to get supporting roles in the 90s. In 2000, he would get a role on the hit show The Sopranos, where he played Matt Bevilacqua. Although he played the part well, not everybody lasts very long in The Sopranos, and he was killed off after only 5 episodes.
It was Sean. You gotta believe me, it was Sean. He got nuts. He said we're being pissed on and disrespected and that we should score points with Richie. But I told him, hey, Rome wasn't built in one day.
Since the late 90s, he had been struggling with substance abuse. He was addicted to crack and heroin, and he would drink heavily too. He turned down a meeting with Steven Spielberg to audition for Saving Private Ryan because he was so strung out. His drug of choice was heroin, and he was arrested with 4 bags of heroin in Yonkers in early 2000 and pled guilty to attempted possession. In 2005, his heroin use was at an all-time high. He was using daily, and him and his friend Stephen Armento decided to rob a house in the Bronx after breaking a window. Brancato claims they never entered the house, which was empty at the time. An off-duty officer named Daniel Enchaltegui lived next door and heard the noise. He confronted the would-be burglars. The officer told him not to move, but Brancato didn't listen, and he ended up getting shot in the stomach when he tried to run away. A shootout would ensue between Enchaltegui and Armento, and the off-duty officer did not make it. Armento was shot multiple times himself, but he would end up surviving. He would be convicted of first-degree murder in his own trial and was sentenced to life without parole. Brancato was charged with felony murder, which was eventually thrown out. He would instead be convicted of first-degree attempted burglary. He would serve 8 years in Rikers Island prison until he was released on parole in 2013. He would continue to use heroin and Narcan in prison until he finally decided to give it up. He claims he has been clean since 2007. He continues to act, but much less notable roles than what he would get in the 90s. Many people still support him. The family of the slain officer, however, are understandably less forgiving and thinks he should be in prison for life. Ryan Grantham was a child actor from British Columbia, Canada. He was born in 1998 in the town of Squamish. He started getting TV and film roles when he was only 9 years old. He would play Rodney James in Diary of a Wimpy Kid in 2010. He was able to find a lot of work, but it was usually just small parts. He would, however, land a lead role in the film Becoming Redwood in 2012, in which he played a kid trying to reunite his parents through golf. The movie didn't make much money, but audiences that did see it generally thought it was fun and cute. Throughout the 2010s, he would continue to find work in TV and TV films and some voiceover work. In 2019, he would film scenes for the CW show Riverdale, which was quite a popular show. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to many, Grantham was battling many demons. He was clinically depressed and had seriously thought about suicide. But then he would come up with a very different, drastic idea. His idea was to drive to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's house and assassinate him. He would load up a big bag with a dozen Molotov cocktails, handguns, ammunition, and camping supplies. But first, he decided to pay his mother a visit in her townhouse. On March 31st, 2022, his mother Barbara Waite was playing piano in her house, and Ryan snuck in the townhouse behind her holding his .22 caliber rifle. He would end up shooting her in the back of the head, and ultimately she was killed. And what's further disturbing is he would take pictures of her body afterwards. After that, he would hit the road to finish carrying out his twisted plan, but it didn't take long for him to finally come to his senses. He would drive to the Vancouver police station and confess that he had killed his mother. He also confessed about his plans to execute the Canadian Prime Minister. When pressed for details on why he killed his mother, he said he didn't want her to be around when the violent plan against Trudeau had gone down. On June 15th, he pled guilty to second-degree murder and gave a seemingly heartfelt apology expressing his sorrow and regret. A guilty plea in British Columbia is an automatic life sentence, but Grantham's lawyer is working hard to try to get him eligibility for parole after 12 years. He will not be out anytime soon. Lane Garrison is an actor that was born on May 23, 1980 in Dallas, Texas. This guy was truly given opportunities few ever received, and he kind of squandered it with some really bad decisions, or at least one really bad decision. In his teenage years, he didn't have the best home life, and he moved out at the age of 17. He ended up living with a family minister and the minister's family for a year. It wasn't all bad, though. The family minister happened to be Joe Simpson, and his daughters happened to be Jessica and Ashley Simpson. After he moved out of the Simpson house, he would drive to LA to try his hand at acting. Some might think he had it easy and got Prison Break right away, but he didn't actually join the cast until 2005, 7 years after he moved out there. He showed real potential as a character tweeter until he was eventually killed off after 16 episodes. But it's Prison Break, it's going to happen. Next up, he is featured in Mark Wahlberg's movie Shooter, which is another exciting opportunity that would no doubt lead to bigger roles. He was only in the opening scene, though, before he was killed in this one, but casting agents were definitely starting to take notice and could see the guy had talent. After Shooter wrapped, he was feeling on top of the world. He was 26 years old, and he liked to party quite a bit. He would drink, he would snort coke, and he would party with teenagers. In December 2006, Garrison met a group of students at a store in Beverly Hills and bought them alcohol and decided to drive them to a party. Garrison was already inebriated and crashed his Land Rover into a tree. 17-year-old passenger Vaughn Sedian was killed on impact. 2 other passengers who were only 15 would be injured, but they would survive. Garrison had a blood alcohol content of 0.20, which is more than twice the legal limit in the state of California. He would plead guilty to vehicular manslaughter and for providing alcohol to a minor, and he was sentenced to 40 months in prison. He would also have to pay restitutions to his victims and victims' family in the amount of $300,000. He should consider himself lucky, though, considering people have been sentenced 50 years to life for the same offense. However, Garrison did seem genuinely remorseful and had no criminal history, and this was probably taken into account. Also, he did an emotional PSA on the dangers of DUI. He would take a break from acting while he went away to prison. From the time he was sentenced in May 2007, he served less than 2 years before he was released in April 2009 and put on parole for 4 years. A civil suit had been brought against Garrison for wrongful death, but details have not been made public. Garrison still acts today. He has gotten some interesting roles in the 2010s. He played Buck Barrow in 2013 in the TV miniseries Bonnie and Clyde. He was also nominated for a Critics' Choice Award when he had a guest spot in the TV miniseries Roots in 2016. I honestly think his career pales in comparison to what it could have been if he didn't make that dreadful mistake that night.